We'll just pick it up from Robbie.
Let me make sure we are, in fact, going live with all of these things. Nope, stream finished. If I refresh it, will it pick up? Nope, it killed the stream.
I see you now on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm in YouTube Studio and I don't. I just refreshed it.
No, I'm looking at the channel right now where it's picking up everything we're saying right now. Boy, do I got a pointy head. Hey, Harry Brady. Hi, welcome to the stream. We're having a bit of an issue that we're
There we
trying to
go.
resolve, so bear with us. Malachite, same thing. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining us. We're having a bit of an issue with our streaming that we're trying to work out at the moment. Apologize for the delay.
Yeah, folks, OBS crashed on us, and when I brought it back up, I didn't actually start the stream. So that's why we're a good 6 minutes late. All right, it doesn't look like we're going to be streaming on Facebook Live. That can't, at least it doesn't seem to be just picking up again like YouTube did. Twitch has us, though. All right. So that's what we're going to do, folks. Blah, blah, blah. Rodney Brown, Louis Correa. You've probably heard that stuff before.
There you go.
Nerd Week Live, blah, blah, blah. Follow us on Twitch, etc., etc. So, what we were first talking about, our very first topic, is the fact that this past week, at the age of 72, Robbie Coltrane, best known for this performance here as Hagrid, died. And we're going to talk about some of his roles, and we're going to talk about his problematic aspects of him as a person. He is best known for, obviously, Hagrid. You might know him if you're a big James Bond fan as Valentine in both GoldenEye and the next one, whose name escapes me right now. And if you're a real deep-cut voice actor nerd, you might know him as Lord Dingwall from Brave. Great performance. And my final one here is, this goes all the way back. One of his very first performances was as a character called Run in the movie Krull. If you know,
I remember this. Yeah.
yes.
Oh, it's a guilty pleasure of mine that I make everybody watch.
As you should. I mean, Liam Neeson's first performance.
Yeah.
You know, Pete Postlethwaite. There's some amazing British actors in that movie. Harry Brady, he played Valentine. Let me go back to that photo. The Russian oil tycoon, oil oligarch, who was in GoldenEye and then appeared also in the next one, which I can't remember the name of. But
I don't remember the other one. The one after that.
Yeah, it was the one with
like,
Christmas Jones or whatever they called her.
No, I'm not gonna remember that name.
Yeah.
It was like the worst one.
Yeah, it was terrible. Nuclear weapon inside an oil pipe. Just
Yeah. Guy who got shot in his head and can't feel anything.
Exactly. Fantastic performance by Sophie, what's her name? The Queen from Braveheart. But other than that, yeah, not the best Bond movie. Yes, he did have a fantastic Scottish accent. One of the reasons why he was pulled in to play Lord Dingwall in Brave, I would assume. Now, the problematic aspect of this is that he is one of the only Harry Potter actors to actually publicly on Twitter, I believe, come out and support J.K. Rowling's at least ability to hold her not terribly good opinions. Not really sure that he actually held any of them himself. I didn't find any of that when doing any of my searches, but who knows? But that
I didn't see anything about him like reiterating or aping her opinions. I literally just saw him saying like she has the right to say things, and some people are just quick to get mad, and like the youngsters, like that old head shit.
Yep.
And like I don't think, me personally, I'm gonna go on a little bit here and just say like I don't necessarily think that makes someone problematic. Sometimes you feel like you have to voice a thought about like the way the internet works, and he's an old guy. He was an old guy. He doesn't necessarily understand it, and I don't blame him that he doesn't understand it, nor should he be required to understand it. And it's just like people are like, he should have been canceled. It's like, canceled for what? Like, he probably doesn't even understand what the hell's going on. He just knows that like the person that he worked with for several movies is getting torn up on the internet for saying something, and that's as far as he read into it.
Yeah, I can see that. I can also see that if he wanted to read up a little bit more, since all of his other younger actors had an opinion, it wouldn't have hurt him to do so.
Not at all. But I won't. I don't feel like, I've seen people talk about him dead, and they're like, remember that he was transphobic and yada yada yada, and I'm like, okay, I don't remember that, and I looked it up and I don't see it.
Yeah, like I said, I can't find any evidence that he actually held any transphobic beliefs whatsoever. And yeah, there are people who are adamant that anybody who supports J.K. Rowling in any fashion whatsoever is in fact just as bad as she is, and is therefore a transphobe.
Yeah.
You can have bad takes on bad people.
Yeah, you can have an opinion on people, and you can say a lot of things, but I think people really also need to understand that there's no definitive black and white when it comes to everyone. Everyone has made a mistake. Everyone has done something wrong. No one is impeccably without making a mistake in any aspect of their lives, and we've all said stupid shit, and me included. There's not a day goes by on Facebook memories that I don't delete some really offensive ass shit that I said like 8 years ago, and my Facebook account's been restricted for like a year now because I said something in 2016.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that harsh. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not going to criticize any of my friends who decide that they want to hate Robbie Coltrane because he supported somebody who's terrible, but I'm also not going to follow them down that path necessarily.
Yeah, I think that's the best route, to be honest. Like, you just kind of just let it die down. The internet forgets everything in a week anyways.
Yeah, including, unfortunately, things that it probably shouldn't. All right.
Yeah, true. Next.
Rest in peace, Robbie Coltrane. Condolences to all of his family members, his friends, people who are still his fans, and so on. All right, moving on to our next topic. This has been a rumor for a couple of weeks now. You would find it on all of the sites that were reporting it as absolutely 100% true, and we do not report those sites because they're almost always wrong. This time they happen to get it right. Harrison Ford is going to be joining the MCU as Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, the role previously played by William Hurt in the MCU. In the upcoming Captain America New World Order.
How old is Harrison Ford now?
Yeah, that's a good point. You know what? Because that is my point I made in a comment. So let's look that up.
Like, I think he's like 80 something.
I believe so.
Anybody in the chat know? Harry, do you know? Luminous?
Let's see. Born in 1942, which would make him 80.
Damn. Oh, look at that. Rolled that dice.
Yeah, nailed it. In fact, he was born on July 13th, so he is, in fact, 80. So, yeah, first off, I think this is an amazing get. I think that Marvel, the MCU, knows this is going to be just print money. Now, um, my question is, if the idea is that Thunderbolt Ross is going to be in some fashion part of the Thunderbolts, and therefore potentially, spoiler for anybody who hasn't read this thing that happened 25 years ago in the comics, the Red Hulk, then, I mean, is that character going to be around for more than 1 or 2 movies? He's 80, folks.
Yeah. And those movies take like 2 years to make.
At least. And that's assuming that Marvel has gotten off of the we're going to kill our VFX workers thing. And now they're going to take 2.5 or 3 years to make.
Yeah. Like it's an amazing get, don't get me wrong, but like he's old. I hate it because like I don't want to see the actors that I enjoyed pass away. You know, it's a shitty day when that happens. But like Harrison Ford is 80, man. He's still trying to do an Indiana Jones movie. Like,
yep.
These and movies take time. I don't see it. Like I knock on wood. Like I see the guy like kicking off around 87, 88.
Yep. Which means, I mean, he could technically make it to the end of Phase 6, and maybe he will be in 3 or 4 MCU movies as Thunderbolt Ross or the Red Hulk. Maybe he'll do 2 of them and then do a Bruce Willis, James Earl Jones, sign off his digital rights.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that I honestly don't necessarily like have a bad or good opinion about that. I feel like if an actor or actress like consents to that, then cool, man. Whatever. It's, you know, Jet Li didn't want to do that shit. That's why he didn't want to be in the Matrix.
Yeah.
But like I would not have gone with him purely because if you want to keep the Thunderbolt aspect and maybe bring in the Red Hulk, 80-year-old Harrison Ford is not it, man. He ain't gonna be around to be the Red Hulk.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Honestly, I mean, I hate to say, I'm not sure that he's going to make it to the Thunderbolts movie.
Yeah.
Probably Captain America New World Order, because that's in pre-production right now. But yeah, I just, and this is not a diss. Obviously, you know, whether he makes it through 1 or 4 movies, Marvel thinks that they've, you know, spent the right kind of money. That, you know, they're going to, this will kick the box office for Captain America New World Order into the level that, you know, the guaranteed level that they're hoping for, which honestly I think is kind of insulting to Anthony Mackie. Now, and a little bit concerning that they think a black Captain America-led movie might not do the box office that, you know, they're hoping for.
Yeah. And to be honest, man, like it's such a difficult thing to approach because I think Anthony Mackie can have that pull and it can pop off, but the problem is often multifaceted because Marvel and like a lot of studios in general have a really shitty fucking track record of promoting black people in leads on movies, unless it's Denzel or someone like Denzel who's very, very like exceptionally popular. They just fail at promoting it. You know, they don't give them really good press junkets. They don't like promote it anywhere outside of the United States unless they edit the movie poster so he's not like predominant in it. Like they did that in China, you know, and like that sucks. Yeah. Like get behind your people if you want to like start, you know, be a company that's like pushing diversity and we're at the front lines of diversity. You need to suck it up and like start promoting your diversity to places that might not want it.
Yeah. Now, obviously, before anybody says anything in the chat, you know, Black Panther, of course. But Black Panther was an exception that might even prove the rule because it was essentially a black-only complete production. Now, director, costume designer, cast, you know, almost complete, aside from Martin Freeman and Andy Serkis, you know, almost a completely black cast.
But the thing is it did fantastic in the United States, but they barely promoted it overseas.
Yep.
They edited the movie posters. They did so much to do. They did editing to the movie itself. Like it's, you know, it's not, promotion is fine in the United States often enough, but those numbers, those giant numbers that everyone talks about with Marvel movies, comes from overseas more than the United States.
Yep. Or at least as much, depending on the movie. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it for sure because it's Harrison Ford. It's in the new Captain America movie. It is at the very least going to be setting up the leader, which will probably be setting up a Hulk solo once those rights revert. Everybody seems to assume that's going to happen in 2023. So there could very well be a Red Hulk, Thunderbolt Ross aspect of the next Hulk solo movie, which will probably land sometime in 2025.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm just worried. Like Lewis said, I'm worried.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be okay with them like coming up with a way to pass the torch. Like he comes in as Thunderbolt Ross, and then maybe he passes it to some other character, you know?
Yep.
Someone that can be the Red Hulk.
Yeah. There is a Red She-Hulk that's actually Betsy.
Yeah, Betty. Yeah, and she was really cool, but it's not the same.
Right. But anyway, we'll see where they go with this. Marvel is really good about rolling with punches, obviously.
Stay alive, Harrison Ford. Stay alive.
Stay alive, exactly. All right, moving on to something that did not stay alive. This is an image from one of the episodes of the reboot of G4. And the news is Comcast pulled the plug again on G4. Apparently, immediately and without notifying all of the G4 staffers in advance, they allegedly sent out a memo. That memo was picked up by somebody and leaked to the internet. I forwarded on Twitter. I retweeted a version of that where somebody had mentioned it and actually posted a copy of the memo. That person that I retweeted is the same tweet that most of the G4 staffers that I've seen since then said, "Hey, thanks for letting us know in advance, jerks." This person put it out there apparently before G4 ever told any of their staffers.
So fucky.
Oh, yeah. Or at least Comcast told any of their staffers.
And like, man, so I actually had like a pretty strong conversation with a friend of mine the other night about G4. And like, so I'll try to summarize it real quick. But number one, like, it was only on for 11 months. Like, you didn't give it a chance. Right. Like, nothing get figured out in 11 months. But also, like, it's 100% some old head executive who came up with the idea to begin with and was like, you know, my kid plays Fortnite and he does the derb thing, and, you know, he watches his favorite streamers. So why don't we bring back that show that I liked when I was a fucking teenager getting into computers and video games, the G4 game place, and it was fun. You know, Olivia Munn jumped in the cake, and let's bring some of those streamers and pay them. I think they were paying them like 32,000, like depending on the stream, the streamer and like their pull.
Yeah,
like 32,000.
Yeah,
for like XQC or someone to come on, and like you're on TV. Like, you weren't even really like on the internet that you're purporting for the show to cater to. And realistically, like young people, I'm 41 now, so I could say that young people are not going to go to your damn channel when they could just go to YouTube and watch that streamer directly.
So that was the thing that I didn't get. Why Comcast thought that there was a need to put this on, what do they call linear, which is the term now for basic cable.
Yeah.
When they were also showing it on Twitch and also showing it on YouTube. I don't have cable anymore, so I'd never watched it there. I would watch it when I did watch it on YouTube or Twitch.
The thing is, in the discussion I was having with my friend, and it's just my theory. The thing, it's like they were catering to the nostalgia crowd, but thinking, well, the nostalgia crowd will recognize G4, and then they have kids, and they're gonna be like, look, I watched this show, and it has your favorite streamers now, and I feel like that was the dice roll. That it was going to be a transitional from parent to child, and like I watched this, you should watch it with me, blah blah blah, and I feel like that did not hit the mark, because there's a reason why America's Funniest Home Videos is still around in some form. It's because it caters to the old people. It knows its demographic, it knows who it's trying to reach to, and these are old people who don't use the internet or use it like not as much as the rest of us as younger people.
Yeah.
And they want to watch puppies and dumb shit. And and G4 was pandering or catering to like the wrong demographic to begin with right off the bat. You just don't pander to the nostalgia crowd.
And I'm not sure they even understood what demographic they were going for. They brought back Adam Sessler and Kevin Pereira, who was there for a while. Pereira left after, so over the summer, apparently one of the president of G4, Russell Aarons, left. And that was, according to this article on Deadline, sort of the start of, basically going downhill. But then they brought on some people that are really current streamers and esports broadcasters, Golden Boy, Fiona Nova, people like that. And then they also brought on some people that were sort of in between, like the beginning, like from between the end of G4 and the current time, like at the beginning of YouTube, like Kasim G. And like, what?
Who did Kasim G? Holy shit. I haven't heard that name since, was it Rap Battles?
Exactly. Kasim G is really old school YouTube comedy. And I think they thought that they were going to try to draw, the people who still felt, that was a kind of humor, plus trying to get the people that, would appreciate the stuff that, that Will Neff and Fiona Nova and the younger crowd were bringing in. And then, like you said, the nostalgia pull of people like Sessler and Kevin Pereira. And so they didn't know what they were doing. They had no idea what type of humor they were trying to do. They had no idea what type of content they were trying to put out. And I stopped watching it as a regular thing months and months ago.
There's no relevance to it. There's nothing that was appealing outside of nostalgia, like you could have, what are you gonna fucking bring back Carson Daly? like come on, like no, like you could have done G4, you could have put it on YouTube or one of your streaming sites that would be packaged in together, and you could have promoted, like you could have had streamers and tournaments and maybe them announcing the tournament, and I forget what the term is called, like shot calling, whatever, when they're like, oh, he did this and
I think so. Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, but they could have done like things like that and talked about, like, made sponsorships of Razer and Logitech and companies like that and promoted a lot of that shit and made their own tournaments.
Right.
If they had made their own damn tournament, everybody and their mother would have been wanting a sponsorship from G4. Like they had avenues, but as I say this a lot in online and in real life, old heads ruin everything.
Yes, we do. On a regular basis. I've said this before. I think that the idea of the kind of humor that they often went for in this new iteration, the unapologetically ironic, I'm not really trying to be funny, isn't it ironic,
Yeah,
died 10 years ago.
that's what killed the Saints Row reboot. That same that same sense of humor was not funny because Gen Zers don't. That's not something Gen Zers care about.
Right. Right. It just, it, and frankly, that's all Kasim G is. That's his entire shtick. And they did one thing they did really well, and then for whatever reason never pushed it enough, is Kevin Pereira's podcast, where he sits down and interviews one person for an hour. They did that as one of their weekly Attack of the Show segments for the first 5 months, and then just stopped. And that might have been a Pereira thing, I don't know, but that was content. That was enjoyable, watchable, interesting content because he had interesting people on. His interview with Adam Savage is one of the best insights into Savage's mind you're going to find.
So I definitely agree that that's phenomenal content. It's also, is it the type of content that Gen Zers want to see?
Well, that's just, I don't know that they were necessarily trying to reach Gen Zers. They certainly weren't with their comedy.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know what would have worked.
Right.
Throwing darts at a board, trying to figure out who and what is going to appeal to you cast a wide enough net and you just don't know what to do with what you caught inside.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, going back to the original, one of the things that differentiated that show from particularly Attack of the Show from almost everything else is that it was essentially Saturday Night Live for just nerds.
Yeah.
They had great comedy writers. They wrote skits and actually filmed funny skits, stuff that I still think of and look back on fondly. Some really good creative stuff. And this time, everything seemed like it was just slapdash.
Yeah.
Except Will Neff wrote and performed some really funny bits. One guy doing one solo thing per week isn't going to cut it.
Yeah. And I've seen a few clips here and there. And I think the one clip that I've seen the most is about the female presenting cast member anchor going on a tangent about
Frosk.
That I'm not going to be bullied for being a woman. And I'm 100% with you, sis. But also you're barely 5 months into your show. Maybe hit the ground running and then start doing all of that.
Yeah.
Because the people who don't agree with you are going to be sharing that clip, because I've seen that clip a million times. They're going to share that one clip, and then it's going to foster animosity towards you having an independent opinion, because God forbid women cannot have that in the gaming sphere.
And honestly, if there's one thing that I really feel bad about this, is that they made a serious attempt for reaching diversity. They're on the X-Play side, they're video game commentators, the Black Hokage, Golden Boy, you wouldn't have seen that anywhere 10 years ago.
And to go what I said earlier, where was the promotion? I never even knew that they were in X-Play.
Yeah.
I know those names. I recognize both of those names, but I didn't know that they were doing this. I never saw anything saying these two Black creators were a part of that show at all.
Yeah.
I only ever saw photos of a bunch of white people.
There's a complete aside. Every time the two of them appeared on the show, and they would at least mention, if not one time, they got into a really great, wonderful back and forth about one of them being Puerto Rican and the other being Dominican. And all I could think of was like, man, Lewis, I wish Lewis was watching this right now. He'd be dying laughing.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
That is one of my favorite things.
but yeah, I mean, that was, and now that effort to showcase something that is actually a mission statement of Nerd Caliber, showcase that nerddom is a very diverse community, is gone. It's off the air. It's also off the streaming platforms. Luminous. Your assessment of G4 reminds me of the MTV Movie Awards. Once upon a time, it was extremely funny and well done, and then it devolved into dull promotion of upcoming movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with that. There was a time I remember like when Chris Rock hosted and Marilyn Manson just finished his set, and Chris Rock comes out, he's like, "Run, take your ass to church." It was that back in the day, you know, when like a black person came up and was just like, "Yeah, I'm from the hood," white people would like run away in fear. But now we got motherfuckers like Marilyn Manson who just come out and you'd be like, "I'm from the hood," and he's like, "I'm straight from hell." Like there were bits, there were. I remember the Matrix parody that they did. That was one of the best parodies that they've ever done. And like, and then now you just, what do you got, man? You got MTV Awards with nothing really although I will give them credit that oh, my brain just stopped. Famous female rapper Missy Elliott. She destroyed it that time. If it was the MTV Awards, which I'm trying to recall, I'm pretty sure she was at the MTV Awards, and she like demolished the stage with her set. Her set was incredible. She even brought the young girl that was a dancer in one of her videos, who's like an adult,
Yep.
and brought her in to do the same dance. Like, hands down the best. But MTV Awards is trash. I don't even watch it anymore. It's just boring.
Yep. Yeah. So I hope somebody takes the idea that diversity is, or nerddom is a diverse community and does something with it, because G4 is not that thing anymore. All right, we got to move on. Because I could rant about G4 forever.
Same.
This is, for somebody of my age, very interesting news. What you have here is Jane Fonda as Barbarella and Sydney Sweeney from Euphoria and a bunch of other things as the upcoming Barbarella. Sydney Sweeney has been cast to star and executive produce in a new Barbarella movie for Sony. Barbarella was a late 1968 sci-fi cheese fest that had Jane Fonda topless multiple times, that introduced the name Duran Duran, because that's from the French comic, and that's a character in the comic and the movie, which is, of course, where the band got the name. I'm, as a fan of really old school, sexy sci-fi, cheesy stuff like this, I'm absolutely thrilled that they're going to do this. I hope they keep the same concept and overall feel while updating it somewhat, and don't go like a grimdark Barbarella.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm tired of grimdark.
Well, yeah, we know you are.
Don't get me started.
Yeah.
Listen to this plot. I love this. In an unspecified future, space adventurer Barbarella is sent by the Earth's president to retrieve Duran Duran from Tal Centi planetary system. Duran is the inventor of the laser-powered weapon, the positronic ray, which Earth leaders fear will cause mass destruction. Like, holy shit, that is like a movie I'll watch any day of the week. It sounds terrible.
And they don't even mention that she is assisted by an actual angel, which is apparently an alien species in this world, played by John Philip Law, who would go on to do all the Sinbad movies. It's a great movie. If you get a chance to watch it, it is an absolute hoot. It's fun. I think Sydney Sweeney is a perfect choice. I don't want to get too far into the 62-year-old man talks about you know topless Jane Fonda in 1968 as regards a 20-something actress in 2022.
Yeah, you don't have the old fogey voice yet though.
No,
So
that's true.
back in my day, Jane Fonda titties everywhere. Like, yeah, like, oh, calm down, Rodney. You're getting senile again.
um, but I will put it out there. I do hope they also keep it at least an R-rated movie.
Yeah, don't do what they did to fucking Flash Gordon
Oh,
when they like I love like Flash Gordon. Like I'll watch the original all day. It's cheese, man. I don't go in there fucking looking for Shakespeare. Go in there looking for fat dude going ha ha every 20 minutes as he punches people off a flying ship in a cloud. But then they like tried to do like a serious reboot of it, and I'm like, what?
yeah.
What? But where's the fun? Why are we this depressed as a nation that we tolerate this?
If you want to do that, adapt DC's Adam Strange. That's
Yeah,
same sort of idea, except you can get some pretty dark storylines out of the Adam Strange comics. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so Barbarella is coming up. We don't know. They just announced the casting, of course. So we have no idea when this is going to hit. But yeah. They point out, though, that Sydney Sweeney is coming up in Madam Web, National Anthem, and a movie called Reality. Apparently, this lady is the hot property in Hollywood right now. So good for her, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Someone start. Yeah, I can't make these red lights spin. That's too bad. Because this is, wah, wah, Ezra Miller watch. Ezra Miller watch. All right. The news is that Ezra Miller has entered a plea in the felony burglary charges for stealing booze out of a house in Vermont. And they have pled not guilty. By apparently not accepting a plea deal, that means that they can face up to 26 years behind bars. Seems a little much for breaking into a house and stealing some booze.
Is
allegedly. But I was under the impression that Ezra Miller was getting help. This doesn't sound like somebody who was getting help and is willing to accept the things that they have done.
It depends. It depends on how we're defining help here. Like if we're talking about mental health, no, he ain't getting shit. But in help in terms of he can get away with whatever the hell he wants, yeah, oh yeah, because that's what's happening.
Yep.
The guy, they're just doing whatever they want, and this whole thing, I bet you, it's going to be like a community service with time served, suspended, yeah, la 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 la, because they're going to be litigious and say that he's going to get help, mental health help, and blah 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 blah, and he's going to just be like, okay, cool, I'm about to go, I don't know, assassinate the president or something.
So apparently, 26 years behind bars and an over $2,000 fine. Those two things don't quite match up in my mind. That seems a little, $200,000 and 26 years in prison.
Break his bank.
So yeah, I think you're right. It's going to be community service and the full fine, which they probably have in their wallet.
Yeah, easily. They're going to ask him to pay $2,000, and they're just going to be like, really? Can you break 1,000?
Yeah. So next hearing is apparently January 13th, which gives them plenty of time to do more reshoots, which apparently has happened in the last month. If you go on, look up, Issa Rae has made a bunch of posts about just how terrible Warner Brothers is for essentially letting this all continue to play out.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, having done a bit of a small bit of deep diving on this, I'm not surprised because the management is so like hardcore against doing anything, and they're so like, hey, no, we want to go back to old values and old way of doing things, and
Yep.
yeah, sounds about white.
Yeah. Yeah. Dave Zaslav,
Yeah,
you are not, in fact, Louis B. Mayer. You know, you are not a 1940s studio head. You're a 2022 studio head. So you probably better start thinking that way. David Zaslav, the new president of Warner Brothers Discovery combined garbage dump.
yeah.
All right,
He
and
pulled.
so we'll keep you informed as more news drops about good old Ezra Miller and their struggles with the law.
Yeah, Warner Brothers has fired everyone except Miller. Lumina says, yeah, yeah, and they brought in all these executives from Discovery who have a track record of being misogynistic and misogynistic and like just in general like terrible human beings. So, yay for diversity.
They kept the Duggars on
Uh,
air for
they're the type of
years.
yeah, they're the type of people that like when they talk about diversity, they're like, oh, we have the black, they just just one. We have one, and therefore, that means that we understand. My best friend Mike, he's half black, and we go golfing on the weekends on our super yachts. So I understand the plight of colored people.
He's half black and he just signed up for Parlor. Um, yeah. Anyway, all right. Moving on to possibly a story about corporations being crappy, or maybe not, based on very late news that thankfully Lewis turned me on to. So this is Bayonetta, obviously on your screen right now, and next to Bayonetta is the voice actor for Bayonetta for the first two games, Helena Taylor, two L's. The news was, as of yesterday or a couple of days ago, that Helena Taylor basically called out Platinum Games for insulting her with what she says was a $4,000 total compensation package for voicing Bayonetta in Bayonetta 3. She turned it down as insulting, and of course she's been replaced. There were a lot of people who come out in support of this. A lot of people who looked at that number and went, "That's even below SAG-AFTRA minimum for hourly rates for voice acting." And then there are plenty of articles out there that basically reference an insider who says that Helena was offered somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000, basically $4,000 a session for what was going to be 4 to 5 sessions of voice work to fill the Bayonetta game, and turned that down. There are people who have been offered $100,000 for voice work in video games that are voice actors that are not like known actors. So maybe Helena Taylor was thinking that even 15 or 20,000 was insulting for a franchise. The first two games made a combined $450 million. Or maybe the reports from this insider in Platinum Games is wrong and Helena Taylor's original statement was right. It's really up in the air right now.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to I think it opens the door for a really decent discussion as to not only what they get paid, but like residuals and things like that. How they're treated in the industry as less of an actor because they're doing voice work.
Yep.
There's wonderful discussions to be had there, maybe some positive change, but also like the way people have jumped on this, like from different perspectives here that I've done perusing the internet when I hate it, is on one side, the minute she came out and said she was getting boned by the company, everybody was just like, yeah, she's 100, yeah, she's right, we gotta tear it down, boycott Bayonetta 3 and yada yada yada. And it's like they were screaming at Jennifer Hale to say something, and she's like, I can't do nothing about it. But also, there are 100 other people who worked on this game. Is it really fair to boycott the game over this? Like, you should boycott the company or something like that. But like, you shouldn't boycott the game. Like, you're hurting people's pockets this way. And I see people who are just like, I don't give a shit. Helena was done wrong. Blah blah
Yeah.
blah.
Just on that one argument, you're not hurting their pockets because they don't get residuals. They got
Yeah.
paid, and they will never get paid a dime again. So whether you buy or boycott the game will not hurt the people who voiced or worked on the game, because, as you said, they don't get residuals.
So they won't get residuals because they worked on the game, but the way the production is done and how many units it sells means that those people will get offers to work on other projects that they might want to, whereupon if the game doesn't sell well, they will not get those offers.
That's a possibility.
Yeah. So that is one of the arguments there is, if it's not necessarily you're taking money out of their pocket immediately, you're just taking work away from them long term. Because if you're a person that's a part of projects that don't work, then you're not going to get better offers for jobs that, projects. But then going past the Jennifer Hale thing, then people found out that Helena was something that I'd have to do a deeper dive, but I don't plan on doing it. But it was mentioned or alleged that, she's like either pro MAGA or something akin to that. And it's like people brought that up, and I'm sitting there like watching this, and I'm like, but what the hell does that matter to the point of her not getting paid?
Yeah.
Like, that has nothing to do with her not getting paid. Why are you people looking at any reason to make these arguments of pro pay, neg pay, and the point I'm getting to, which I'm going to get to right now instead of dragging this out a little bit more, is like, people, just wait a little bit for information. That doesn't have to like literally apply to every instance, but in instances like this, take a moment to just chill out and like stop immediately diving onto the hashtags of like, I'm pro this, and if you're against her, then you're son of a bitch and cancel culture, blah 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 blah. Just chill out, because now we're getting all this new information, and I personally know like 4 people who were pro Bayonetta boycott, and then suddenly you're like, oh yeah, no, there's this other information that may or may not paint this in a different direction, and now I feel like an asshole, but I'm not going to admit that I'm an asshole.
Hey folks, if you jumped on a bandwagon with limited information, please be the kind of person who will go, whoop, my bad, now let's slow down and take a look at this.
Yeah, our next topic will be a good example of that.
Yes.
As well.
In fact, I think we're about to move on to that next topic. We will keep on this. We will find out when we find out, if we find out, what the real story is here. And again, everybody, it's up to you whether you want to boycott the game or not, whether you want to support the game, whether you want to boycott it, but you kind of have to get a copy to do a review, as Stephanie Sterling indicated. All of that's up to you, but like Lewis said, just wait a little bit and find out what's really going on here. One thing that is abundantly clear is that SAG-AFTRA needs to fix its rules about voice acting compensation requirements. No other acting, by professional actors or not, in any medium whatsoever, doesn't get residuals. Songwriters, performers get residuals for their music. I was looking at a tweet from one of the tech journalists that I follow, who had a background scene in Silicon Valley, one episode of Silicon Valley, the HBO series, and he got a check for $1.72 because that episode aired on somewhere in the world, some syndicated screening. This guy is not a member of the Actors Union. He's not a member of SAG-AFTRA, but because those rules apply to everybody, because SAG-AFTRA has negotiated them for everybody who acts, he got that residual check. But voice game actors, forget it.
Yeah.
They don't. And that's terrible. So SAG-AFTRA, fix that. Whether this happens to be a particularly good example of the problem or not. All right, moving on to our last topic. This is going to be a tough one, folks. Trigger warning for abuse, domestic abuse. If you don't like topics about sex workers, you probably want to bail too. So that's out there. The news broke by the cosplayer turned Twitch streamer turned adult content producer, Amaranth, shown here in actually her latest stream, that one, that she's married, two, that her husband has been abusing her, seized control of all of her financial accounts, and just had threatened her with all kinds of possible horrible things, including killing her dogs if she tried to take her money back. And she did this live on on her Twitch stream yesterday or 2 days ago. 2 days ago. And with receipts, as the kids these days said, posted up DMs from her husband with these threats. That's just horrible. Now, an update before we continue to talk about this. She has posted a 1 hour long Twitch stream today. Not posted, it was live. In which she said that things are better. Her husband is no longer living with her. She now has control of all of her finances. And she is seeking legal and emotional help. So good for her, and I'm glad that things are at this stage. It will never stay at this stage, but they're at this stage. And then the shitlords came out. People started, after her first stream, people started criticizing her for never telling them that she was married. Like, really crapping all over that. That's what they took out of this. That, oh, she's a liar because she never said she was married. In fact, has publicly stated that she wasn't, or denied that she was married when people asked. Really? That's your worry? In a world where people have to hide the fact that they may be gay, they may be trans, they may be whatever. You're worried that an entertainer lied that she was married? Jesus.
Yeah. And a lie that her husband told her to do. And, but you guys, you can blame her, right? But her husband told her the information was all there, And to go back a little bit towards the whole, everything's going to get better, but it's not. Literally, she said this once before in the previous stream that, before the hot tub meta, everything got better. And then when the hot tub meta came out, he was hardcore, forcing her to do it and yelling at her and berating her. And so it got better and it got worse. So it's abusers gonna abuse. They're gonna continue that cycle. They're not gonna change.
Yeah.
And in this specific instance, I have to reiterate, I have to say this because this is my opinion. So I don't want anybody talking shit about Nerd Caliber, because it's my opinion that I'm voicing here. I don't give a shit what she did in terms of her career. I think she's incredibly, like, not only is she an amazing young woman, she's incredibly intelligent. She does amazing investments. She took money from Twitch and invested it into different businesses. She's making a fortune. She could quit right now and be good just on like her investments alone. And from what I've gleaned through peripheral friends and stuff like that, like she goes out of her way to help fellow streamers, like in terms of like investment. She's helped other streamers invest their money so they have a retirement fund and like money to keep going, because Twitch is not a definitive job.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't have, it's so early realistically in the lifetime of streaming that you don't have like like these people aren't thinking about retirements and things like that. But Amarith has. She's thinking about money, putting in the money away. She's helping people build portfolios. And then like, so yeah, so she did hot tub metal, and she did sex work, or does sex work, and whatever else. What the hell does that have to do with abuse? If you're the type of person that thinks like doing sex works means that you should be abused, then you're a son of a bitch, straight up. You're a piece of shit, because no one should be beaten for it, or assaulted, or verbally, psychologically, physically, for doing things like that. That one does not lead to the other. And if you believe that, you're the same person that tells women that the clothing that they wear is why they were raped.
Yep. Like
that's you're wrong. And the fact that like I saw so many disgusting comments, man. So many disgusting comments, and not just from men. I saw a couple from women as well, who were sitting there and saying like, "Oh, well, this is why sex work is bad, because things like this." And no, her husband hurting her in whichever way that he's doing is not because of her doing sex work, because he was the one that pushed her into, or asked her to be a part of that, and she agreed to, you know. So like, the fact that you think that you're a person that thinks that way is like, I don't think you're a good person. And if there's a hell, I hope you burn in it, because that's not how you treat people, and that's not how people like that should be treated. And this woman presented receipts, as the youngsters say, and you heard the conversation that she had on the phone with him.
Yep.
And yet you're still denying it. And this is why women and female presenting people do not come forward, because you create this like massive level, a mountain that they need to climb to prove to you, anonymous person on the internet, that they are a victim. Yeah. You know, there's people right now who are saying that she orchestrated this to, you know, to get views. She don't need no fucking views. Her average views is 10K a person on Twitch, 10, you know, like she don't need views. She gets views just by turning on Twitch and OBS.
She is, I'm not sure if the numbers are accurate to say the wealthiest Twitch streamer, but she is in the top 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is absolutely no need for her to do anything like that to get views, because you know that she's losing viewers who are the idiots and the jackholes who think that this is faked, that think that she deserves it for lying about the fact that she was married. That, you know, all of those idiots are dropping off of her subscriptions left and right. And so by coming forward, she's losing these subscribers. If she was faking it, she knows she would have lost those subscribers. Why in the world would she fake it?
Yeah, it's you don't, that's a career move you don't recover from.
Right.
Like, you don't go that route unless you're trying to nuke your own like thing.
Yeah.
And additionally, I will add, for a lot of you people who are like, oh, she was married and I'm disgusted and I donated money to her. You donated money to her for a service. She was running a show. You participated. You gave money to that. If you donated money because in your sick head you thought you were going to get 2 inches closer to having sex with her, and now you're upset that she has a husband, you're fucking stupid.
Yep.
And conversely, I will also add, clearly a lot of you people, especially the young people now who are saying this, a lot of you follow a lot of like Japanese idols and things like that. Why don't you go look into that music industry and see why idols are not allowed to announce if they're dating or married because of people like you? Because they have to present a fantasy of being single. Because if they don't do that, if they don't, if they say they're married, if they say they're dating, then people like you get upset and will not like entertain their music. And it's such a draconian industry that makes people, young women, suffer
Yep.
because they don't do that to the men. They make young women suffer for your incel ass.
Plug to Joey the Anime Man's recent video where he interviews a former idol and really goes in depth about the dark side of the requirements. Go to YouTube, check it out. Anyway, that's it, folks. That's our show for tonight. Thank you all for joining us in the chat. Thank you for your patience with my idiotic problems with OBS at the beginning. Lewis, give us a goodbye.
Well, as always, whenever I'm able to be here, it's always a fantastic time. I love having these discussions with Rodney and with the audience that we have. Next week, we're going to have another show and, topics, but also if some of you have an idea, maybe you guys want us to talk a little bit more about something, put it in the comments and we'll take a look and we'll see if we could fit it in somewhere and just kind of like with this Ezra Miller thing that we have where we bring that up. But maybe you want us to go a little more in depth on one or two items, drop it in the comments and we'll see what we can do for you.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, I always post up probably 40 to 50% more topics than we have time to discuss. So if you see something there and it's like, oh yeah, I really wanted to talk about, this new casting, that they did for Percy Jackson. I'm like, all right, cool. Then somebody in the chat wants that. That's going to go on the list. Because otherwise it's going to go on the stuff that I think is interesting, that I think Lewis will find interesting, or whoever else is on the team, and that's, the way it is. So, yes, Lewis, thank you. Excellent point. Folks, we will see you at next week's show. We'll see you at an upcoming show. I think we got Rhode Island Comic-Con coming up fairly soon. And in the meantime, stay safe out there. COVID is still a thing, folks. Pay attention to the real news. And get out and vote in a couple of weeks. Now, I'm going to say that the next time too, but exercise your civic right, and I'm old enough to think that it really should be considered a civic duty.
I agree.
So, all right, folks, that's it. We'll see you at an upcoming show. Good